very warm welcome to you all to this news hour on Équinoxe Television, live from our headquarters in Cameroon's economic capital, Douala. I am Babla Jonathan. In our top stories in this edition of the news, violence and human rights violation on the rise in the crisis-stricken regions of the Republic of Cameroon in the northwest, southwest, and far north regions of the country. A report of a working group on human rights of Stand Up for Cameroon Civil Society platform indicates that at least 65 cases of violence have been recorded in those two regions, and the Prime Minister of the Republic, Chief Dr. Joseph Dion-Gouté, calls on all inhabitants of the southwest region of the country to denounce those who are increasing the worsening situation in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, who are increasing violence or castrating violence in those two regions. He was speaking in Boya today during the destruction of weapons seized from separatists or non-state armed group fighters in those two regions, notably in the southwest region. We'll bring to you details in this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast. Thank you for staying with us. We begin this newscast in Government Bilingual High School, Muya in Boya, southwest region of the Republic of Cameroon. The institution has recorded one of the recent fire incidents described as an arson attack in the northwest and southwest regions of the country within the context of the close to 5-year worsening anglophone crisis. Some classrooms, sections of the school were set ablaze last night by unidentified individuals, and this is one of the recent fire incidents recorded at close intervals of time in the two English-speaking regions of the country within the context of the Anglophone crisis. Some of the fire incidents were recorded recently in the town of Kumba too, within less than 48 hours, and now sections of Government Bilingual High School, Muya in Boya, set ablaze. We'll be updating you on that with our correspondent in the southwest region, Derek Jato. And we stay in the southwest region to talk about the Prime Minister of the Republic, Chief Dr. Joseph Dion-Gouté, who was in the southwest region of the country. And the Prime Minister and head of government has called on the population to denounce civilians who are having guns, who are in possession of guns and using them for purposes which are out of the law or not in respect of the laws of the land and human rights, and of course human life. He was speaking today in Boya after the destruction of weapons collected from repentant or killed non-state armed group fighters in the southwest region of the country. Prime Minister Chief Dr. Joseph Dion-Gouté was in Boya for that purpose, and the destruction took place today, as you can see in those images, in the presence of representatives of some diplomatic bodies in Cameroon, generals, and some members of government. Now take a listen to Prime Minister Chief Dr. Joseph Dion-Gouté, who spoke to Derek Jato.
This project, Silence the Guns, it's an African Union project which has got the backing of the Security Council of the United Nations, and the President of the Republic has strengthened the regulatory dispositions concerning the weapons, small and light weapons in Cameroon. We don't want to see this circulate because they are the main cause of the lack of peace in our country. And he asked me to come and preside over this ceremony in the presence of generals, in the presence of the diplomatic corps, to ensure that all the populations of Cameroon should denounce people who are keeping unauthorized weapons, because that is the main reason why we don't have peace in some regions of Cameroon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Violence and human rights violation on the rise in the Republic of Cameroon, notably in the crisis-stricken regions of the northwest, southwest, and far north regions of the country. Before we bring to you details on findings of the Human Rights Working Group of Stand Up for Cameroon Civil Society platform, let's talk about this specific case of a journalist who has been slammed 23 months imprisonment in a defamation case. I'm talking about Paul Shooter, and the verdict was handed down yesterday by the Yaoundé Court of First Instance. The Mandela Foundation International says that case violated the rights of the journalists and the laws of the land. Now take a listen to the executive director of Mandela Center International, Jean-Claude Faulkner, who talked about the verdict of the Court of First Instance Yaoundé concerning the defamation case involving Paul Shooter. Take a listen.
The Center International expresses its total indignation to the unfair conviction of human rights defender and journalist Paul Shooter to 23 months imprisonment in his defamation trial against the writer Kalis Beyala, and to fines to about 160,000 francs CFA and 2 million francs CFA in damages when he has already spent 24 months in prison because he was placed under a remand warrant on June 10, 2019. By the time the blogger regains his freedom, probably today, Mandela Center International has, with determination and insistence, on Paul Shooter to immediately appeal against this verdict of shame. As we all know, Paul Shooter was placed under a remand of custody at the Kodengi Yaoundé Central Prison on June 10, 2019 by the former Yaoundé Administrative Center prosecutor, George Meka, after 14 days in custody at the Yaoundé Judicial Police. His request for release on bail was rejected on July 22, 2020, when the judge himself had asked for guarantee in accordance with the provisions of Criminal Procedure Code.
The executive director of Mandela Center International says that the laws of the land, notably laws on defamation, were violated by the judge who handed down the verdict of 23 months imprisonment against Paul Shooter, a journalist, and fines of more than 2 million francs CFA. He simply indicates that the verdict did not respect prescriptions or legal prescriptions. Take a listen.
Prosecuted for defamation by way of cybercrime. As we all know, in Cameroonian law, the offenses of defamation, that's section 305 and 307, are respectively punished by a maximum penalty of 6 days to 6 months and fine from 5,000 to 200,000 francs CFA. But in this case, Paul Shooter is serving more than 24 months in pre-trial detention. Mandela Center International has always maintained that the arrest of Paul Shooter was illegal and his custody abusive because in complete violation of the relevant provisions of section 118 and following of the Criminal Procedure Code. The detention of Paul Shooter is thus illegal and arbitrary as it exposes him on marked violation to his fundamental rights since he is deprived of the means to defend himself. This is clearly an arbitrary detention which is a violation of the right to liberty and is in complete violation of national law and international standard to which the state of Cameroon has freely subscribed.
Now we bring to you details on findings of the Human Rights Working Group of Stand Up for Cameroon Civil Society platform on human rights violations and violence in the northwest, southwest, and far north regions of the country. The working group says that during the month of April 2021, Cameroon continued to experience tensions and violent events resulting to death and serious human rights violations. The violence incidence of these violence and human rights violations reflects the persistent security and socio-political crisis that Cameroon has been facing for several years in the regions of northwest and southwest regions of the country, stated in the report of the Human Rights Working Group of Stand Up for Cameroon Civil Society platform. At least 65 situations of violence were observed in the main crisis areas of the far north, southwest, and northwest regions of the country. And the report further indicates that these situations of violence were divided into fatal actions, 20 of them explosions, 09 fives, that is fire incidents, at least 4, and violence that did not result in death, about 20 of them. And the report further says that at least 45 deaths were recorded, 19 in the fight against Boko Haram, 27 in the crisis in the northwest and southwest regions, and at least 27 people were kidnapped during April, in the course of the month of April 2021. And the report further says that at least 247 people were killed in the far north, southwest, and northwest regions. At least 122 people were killed in the fight against Boko Haram, and 126 in the anglophone crisis. At least 60 people were kidnapped, 45 in the anglophone crisis, and 15 in the fight against Boko Haram. At least 21 explosions and fire incidents caused by fighting groups in the far north and northwestern regions of the country. These observations were made since January 2021, that these figures covering the month of January right up to March 2021. And in the northwest and southwest crisis, the following facts were noted by the Human Rights Working Group of that is Stand Up for Cameroon Civil Society platform: an increase in the use of improvised explosive devices by non-state armed groups operating in the regions. This modus operandi, according to the Human Rights Working Group, is used both against state armed forces and against some key infrastructure and devices. Continued burning of houses by the state armed forces in several villages, continued burning of houses of administrative officials and the army by separatists, armed attacks and clashes in the towns and around some public facilities such as police stations and hospitals. Both non-state armed groups and regular armed forces target civilians in their operations, resulting in injuries and death. These are observations made by the Human Rights Working Group of Stand Up for Cameroon Civil Society platform. Now take a listen to one of the human rights defenders.
The report for this month, we see that things are not getting better. It is quite true that our statistics proves that the number of killing has reduced, but we want to make you know that those are the information we are able to lay hands on, and the reality is there are so many that we don't have an idea. And looking at things, you see that we are going to another level in terms of explosions and burning down of houses. You see that that is what the separatist fighters are using against the armed forces. And it doesn't end only with the armed forces, because the civilians themselves, they are not free from it. If they put the bomb on the street and waiting for the armed force and a civilian passes on it, the person is not exempted. So we look at it, we see also a child who stood on a bomb and also died. So we see that the crisis is taking another turn. The armed group have decided to use another strategy, which is the use of explosive. And actually we want to call on the Cameroonians that we need to stand up, because if we don't stand up, this thing is going to exceed, and it will come to a level where we will not be able to contain it. We are still unable to contain it, but it will even come worse.
with regards to facts and figures streaming into the working group from the northwest and southwest regions of the country, and in sharp contrast with statements often made by government authorities. Mercy Limniu, member of Stand Up for Cameroon, says that the situation is worsening in the northwest and southwest regions of the country with devastating consequences on the unity of the country. She thinks that unity has seriously been adversely affected by the crisis in those two regions. Take a listen to her.
We are a united nation of the English and the French speaking, but in reality there is one part of the country that is in a conflict and nothing is being said about it. All they say is everything is under control, but you and I know that it is not true. It is actually not true, because everything is not under control. I'm from Bafut. You are talking of 7 kata. I'm from Bafut. The 7 katas are from Bafut. So I can tell you that it's been more than how many years. I don't know how my village is. People just call me to tell me, oh, the house there, it is unbearable. So how do you tell me that everything is coming back to normal when I personally can't go to the village to bury my loved ones? So to me, I don't see any unity. If there is supposed to be a unity, if there is supposed unity, as they say, I think we need to handle this thing as it is supposed to be handled, giving each and everyone his or her place on the national territory on decision making and in terms of human rights. That is what I have to say.
Mercy Limniu, Stand Up for Cameroon civil society platform members, speaking there about human rights violations and the situation in the northwest and southwest regions of the country and its consequences on national unity, a situation that is worsening the division that is already happening in the country, according to some analysts, at the time when Cameroon is getting set to celebrate national unity tomorrow, May 20. We shall talk more about this in this edition of the 6 p.m. newscast. Time for us to talk about still concerning consequences of the anglophone crisis, this time on education. In the town of Bangangté in the Kupe and Ikuba division, southwest region of the country, as it is the case in many parts of the two anglophone regions, education has been seriously affected, especially students writing the general certificate of education, GC, ordinary and advanced levels, who are now complaining over the absence of teachers, many of them who have abdicated their duty posts because of the security situation in those two regions. Immaculate Fogwe has more.
Rising insecurity in Bangangté and Tombel in the Kupe-Maningouba division, southwest region, is hindering the completion of the entire syllabus by examination students. Several teachers in these parts of the town were forced to flee to safer areas, a situation which is having a negative impact on the level of preparedness of the students.
We lack some teachers in some various departments, but we are really trying our best to see that we succeed in the examination. As compared to last year, things are better. We are pleading that they should reinforce the security because some of us are still living in panic.
Another problem faced by these students is the limited number of equipment found in their laboratories, whereas they have just few days to the practical session of the examination.
In the science laboratory, we need some equipment so that the science students should go on successfully in their studies. I'm begging for the Minister of Secondary Education to help us, we the students of GBHS Bangangté, with some equipment in our science laboratory and more recruitment of teachers in Bangangté.
The senior divisional officer for the Kupe-Maningouba division, Jean-Marie Chakwi, during his tour in some schools in Bangangté, believes that this year's examination results will be better than that of last year, despite the absence of some teachers due to rising insecurity in the locality.
We are very satisfied from what we have seen because all the teachers, all the children are around and are working hard to make sure that they succeed at the end of the year.
Few days to the official kickstart of the General Certificate of Education examination, teachers could be seen in classrooms carrying out last-minute revision classes in order to prepare these students for the task ahead.
The traditional ruler of Mabom village in the Kam division, littoral region of the Republic of Cameroon, says that if the village does not receive its own percentage of resources being exploited from the area, the inhabitants will rise up and stop the exploitation of their natural resources. And His Royal Highness Paul Mbonjo Ngolo made the declaration recently as he was visiting some areas in the village and notably taking a look at the state of the village. Smanji can give a report.
Mabom, a village in the Bajop clan in Yabasi, is in need of social amenities. The zone that has been blessed with natural resources from the forest is not developing but remain in an enclaved nature. According to the chief of Bajop village, if government doesn't react fast on the exploitation of the forest resources, the village will stop any company coming to cut down their trees.
Quand bien même vous feriez des revendications, vous n'êtes pas sûr que ce soit entendu, même quelquefois par l'autorité administrative locale.
With several logs already taken out of the village, the villagers don't have accessible roads as most of their roads have been destroyed by the heavy-duty vehicles, taking away the forest resources. The water consumed by the villagers is also a call for concern. Mabom is in need of social amenities.
Problèmes cruciaux sont le problème d'eau potable.
The most vital problem is that of social amenities. No water, no infrastructures, no medical facilities. But we keep on pressuring the authorities to look into these problems.
Liés aux infrastructures de santé. Il n'y a pas de centre de santé. Mais déjà aussi, nous ne cessons de saisir les pouvoirs publics pour décrier la difficulté.
The population of Mabom now await for the urgent intervention of government to see them through this ordeal.
Health officials in Malawi have incinerated 19,610 expired doses of the AstraZeneca coronavirus vaccine. They said it will reassure the public that vaccines they do get are safe. Malawi is the first African country to do this. The World Health Organization initially urged countries not to destroy expired doses of vaccines, but has now changed its advice. Uptake of the vaccine in Malawi has been low, and health workers hope the more will be taken, the vaccine intake will increase. Out of a population of about 18 million people, the country has recorded 34,232 persons confirmed positive for COVID-19 and 1,153 deaths. Malawi received 102,000 doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine it acquired from the African Union March 26, 2021 and used almost 80% of them, but the expiry date on the labels was April 13, and officials say this was not enough time to use them all. Talking Point is up next. Our guest today, Ntiwume Emmanuel, is a civil society activist. He is also a teacher. Thank you for joining us today.
It's always a pleasure, Mr. Babila.
All right, we begin in the Southwest Regional Chieftain Boya. The government bilingual high school, Muya, comes under raging fire, attributed to arson attack.
Well, you and I everybody knows exactly what is happening in the northwest and the southwest. So to me, that should not be news. Because nothing has been done so far.
It's the most recent fire incident recorded there after 2 fire incidents that were recorded in less than 48 hours in Kumba, still in the southwest region of the country. Fire is no longer news to you, but it's still causing destruction.
Yes, we are living in destruction. That's why I say it's no longer news. What is news is something that is coming once in a while. But you know that since 2016, there have been systematic burning of structures.
Has it become a normal thing? Has it become something that is almost part and parcel of the people?
No, destruction is not normal. What I mean here is that, you see, it is systematic. And you know, in a war, they are just changing the dynamics of the war. It can cool off in the morning, and then in the afternoon they think of another strategy. At one point they can decide to revisit the former strategy. So I maintain that to me is not news.
To you it's not news, but
it is destruction.
Yes, it is destruction. And this is the first time that a fire incident is occurring in that school, Government Bilingual High School, Muya. And when schools are set ablaze, it is true that it's something that has been happening, but it is still a point of attraction. It is still an issue which is worth looking into, because these are indications, according to other analysts, that the crisis is persisting and deepening.
No, it was deep. It is deep, and it continues to deepen until the day that the right things shall be done. So you see, when you say that it causes attraction, I feel like you lighten the weight of the attraction. It is causing more attraction, because those who love war like to see more destruction. And so when you just say that it is causing some attraction, you are lightening the weight of the statement. Yes, we are in war, and in war those who are fighting want more destruction, because it is destruction that sends a faraway message that actually, contrary to what our lying pastors of the Republic are saying, that calm has returned, everything has returned to normalcy. It is a lie, Mr. Babila. That's just one of the proofs.
It would be much better for us to avoid using words that may be considered as insults, especially on public authorities, the representatives of the state. Now, this incident occurred last night while the Prime Minister was in Boya, and today he was supervising somehow the destruction of weapons collected from repentant non-state armed group fighters, and some of them who were killed, and the weapons collected from them. When this incident happens, even in the presence of the Prime Minister in the region, what do we read within the lines?
I think you don't need to have to be a PhD holder to be able to read within the lines this kind of an action. It's very simple, that we are sending a message that the head of government is coming into town. We want to welcome him with fire incident.
Why should he be welcomed with fire?
No, like I said,
he has been preaching peace and calling for an end, doing everything possible to see an end to this conflict. Why should he be welcomed with fire?
Your question is pushing me now to tell you clear and to be very succinct that the Prime Minister has been preaching in the desert.
Why do you think so?
He has been preaching in the desert because in the context in which we find ourselves now, we need action, not preachings. And each time I have a problem, is somebody I respect so much, but in his position as the Prime Minister, I don't think he's respected the way he ought to be. You know, each time he says, my papa talk say, make I come tell una say, it is translating a message to those who are on the ground that this man has nothing of his own to offer. He is bringing the words of somebody who could as well go down to the field as the president of the republic, talk to the people of the Northwest and Southwest. And you know that even in elementary economics, we are told that doing the same thing over and over becomes monotonous.
Let me come to that. You will not expect a prophet to speak and say, I'm the one speaking, and will not end by saying, thus says the Lord. You will not expect a prophet to transmit a message from God and say he is the one speaking.
I am sure that in your church, when you pray and you are ending, you say, this is the word of the Lord. You don't say, this is my word. So I want to come back to your point. When you say, in the biblical context, nobody can compare with God. But Mr. Bia is not God.
He's not God, of course.
He is a messenger.
The Prime Minister is going there on behalf of the head of state.
The head of state
and
is
as
a
the
messenger.
Prime Minister of the Republic.
You all know that leadership is a sacrifice. And when you are in leadership, you are at the service of the people. You cannot assume leadership in a country and you want other people to provide your services to others. Mr. Babila, there is a vacuum, there is a lacuna, there is something lacking somewhere that the real person, the captain on board has to take the pattern. It's lacking.
No, the Prime Minister calls on the inhabitants
Is it the first time he's there?
To denounce civilians who are orchestrating, or those, generally those who are orchestrating violence and other atrocities happening in those two regions.
Mr. Babila, I want to tell you that.
Do you think such a call can yield fruits?
No, never. Never. I like that why I say he's throwing water on the Dex bar. He's preaching in the desert. Remember that even in Yaoundé where he is, if the Prime Minister is not respected by his immediate subordinates, who are other ministers, do you think that it will be the separatist fighters who have no direct bearing with the Prime Minister? I think it has come to a point where I love John Gote as a person, but as a Prime Minister, I think his respect is being missing somewhere. And I think he would have created history in Cameroon by getting up one day, calling for the national television and a credible TV station like Equinoxe, making a press conference to say, look, my people, I have tried. It is not going. Nothing is going. And I want to resign because my hands are tied. I don't have enough power to solve the situations that are on the ground.
You're saying that his hands are tight, but he is not saying so, because he thinks that he is at work and he is working. Those who are close to him are saying, we are producing some results.
Wow. It is coming from you that I respect so much, Mr. Babila.
Yes, that is what
are the results that he's producing. Are you not seeing that things have been moving from bad to worse? If there was another word that worst could replace, I will use it. But since it doesn't exist, I wouldn't. We are not feeling his impact. Even I have just given you a simple example that right in Yaoundé, you saw what happened with the COVID funds. When he came to auditing, it was withdrawn from his office, which means that his competence is even put to test, to question by those around him. And now, you think people dealing with guns in the bushes will just come out and listen to him? No, I don't think it works like that.
But will it not be a good thing, or how important is it for people to begin to denounce, okay, somebody who has a gun, I have my neighbor who has a gun here, in this context of uncertainty?
It's a very good thing. We all need calm and normalcy to return. We all need peace. We all need to see our brothers, our wives, our fathers stay alive. But the question now is, when I was watching your news there, I saw him supervising the destruction of arms. I remember those arms are like a plantain, a sucker. You cut another one germinates. If he had succeeded in destroying the source from where these arms are coming from, that's where I would have said, wow, Mr. Prime Minister, you are doing a good job. But it is cosmetic, it is it is artificial.
So the destruction of arms from separatist fighters who have reported and those who were killed, and the fact that some of them have actually heard the message of the President of the Republic and other authorities, including the PM, of course, and they are now in the DDR centers, that one for you is...
No, it's cosmetic. I would have even expected him to think about the life of those who have dropped their guns after dropping the guns, how to ameliorate, so that in the days ahead we don't hear of strike again.
Yes, but sending some millions to assist them in to stop them from going to the streets.
Well, if at all the millions will get into their hands and their pockets, because we know we are in Cameroon, we are not here in we are not in heaven. So I was also thinking that the important thing is to stop the source of the guns, not to destroy the guns that have already been seized. That is the message I am sending, Mr. Bula. Destroying the guns without destroying the source is a folklore.
Tomorrow is 20th of May, National Unity Day, and of course the celebration will be taking place, but there will be no parade and the usual activities that often characterize the celebration of the National Day. At this point in time, close to 5 years down memory lane with this situation in the northwest and southwest regions of the country, what's your take on the unity of the state today?
You know, most Cameroonians have come of age as far as the history of their country is concerned, and they are more and more beginning to believe that 20th May 1972, which was in the context of unity, was the beginning of the complete disunity of Cameroonians. And I explain very briefly. Just look at the context and the manner in which it was done. Achille LEUDJO duped one part of the nation, because in Fumban in 1961, Foncha was the architect of the reunification. But back in 1972 referendum, Anglophones were not on the table to decide. And I will cite just one name, S.T. Muna, that was present in this conference. Meaning that other Anglophones were not there. Because when we are talking about unity, we are talking about two entities that came back together. And you discover that it was a maneuver with the question of the we and the yes. You see that for some time, people were quiet. But as time went on, they discovered that the folklore in the name of unity was the genesis of the disunity of the two Cameroons. And so today, like I said, many Cameroonians have become very much abreast with the history of Cameroon. Since history deals with facts, and facts cannot be shot with guns, that's why you discover that people are more and more becoming very aware that 20th May should have been a foregone story. If at all it could be possible, many hearts will be appeased, and I am one of the hearts that will be appeased. 20th May has no reference in our history.
And the Human Rights Working Group of Stand Up for Cameroon Civil Society platform, in its April report on the situation of human rights and violence in the country, says that the increasing violence and human rights violations is an indication that the situation is worsening, like you rightly indicated. And looking at these, one of the members of Stand Up for Cameroon, Mercy Lemieux, says that national unity is seriously in peril.
Yes, and I buy her idea in total. National unity is in peril. Now, where we are, Mr. Babila, we don't need Republican professors. We don't need PhD holders to come and tell us that we are in unity. No. A brilliant class 6 child knows it enough that we are not in unity. Because what is unity? Unity means we eat together, we live together. If we live together without eating together, there is no unity. If we live together without eating together, or eat together without living together, there is no unity. These two aspects must move together. And as one has been dominating the other, Because what we see more is like our present regime is working more on living together and even applying force. They are not working more on the domain of eating together. And that is where the problem really comes. Since a hungry man is an angry man, a hungry man will always find time to see where you wrong him.
All right, we are rounding up in some few words. We will not stop asking this question until we get the sustainable solutions that everyone is expecting. What should be done now? 2 seconds.
No, we have always said the solution is in our hands. It's very easy. The military option is more costly, financially, human life-wise, and all not. But the cheapest solution is our voice. Voice of reason, Mr. Babila. Voice of honesty. Voice of sincerity. Talk from heart to heart with those that matter. Don't go and leave those who are troubled and talk to those who are not troubled. Because a crisis came up and those who brought the crisis, they have been sidelined. They were put in jail. And people had juicy positions in Yaoundé that they harvested from the anglophone crisis. And they are there, well placed, and they continue to pour more oil and fire into the crisis. So I think genuine voice is what we want. It is not the military option.
Genuine voices with honesty and sincerity. Thanks very much, Ndiwum Emmanuel, civil society activist and teacher. Thank you for your time.
It's a pleasure, Mr. Babila.
Thanks, ladies and gentlemen, for staying with us. Equinoxe is up next.